Hi, Ben with Flycraft. Today we're going to show you how to install the rod holder and the rear gear rack. Okay, you're going to have 3 tubes. You're going to have your rod holder hardware. Your hardware may be installed in the brackets or it may be bagged. Haven't figured out how we're going to do that, but we're going to start with this front hardware. The first step is you're going to remove these 2 hardware bolts right behind the front oarsman seat. We want to take those out, and we're going to start with these 2 brackets. You're going to notice that one of these brackets, one side is a little longer and one side circular. What we're going to do is take the circular side and line that up and take a 2-inch bolt and feed that through both sides. Then we're going to take our other piece and make sure the circular hole feeds in. You want these slotted brackets on top. We're going to just, for now, hand tighten these bolts. We're not going to crank these down yet. We're going to basically install everything first and then tighten it all down at the end because we're going to need a little bit of play on these. Next, we're going to take the rod box and we're going to align this hole with the pre-drilled hole here. And we're going to use this washer. There's only one washer, and that will actually, what you're going to want to do is put that bolt in first and then slide this washer in between the frame and the box. And then we're just going to go ahead and hand tighten that so this can float freely. Next, we're going to take these 1/2-inch threaded bolts and we're going to line these with the slots. We're going to drop the Phillips head in up top, and then we're going to take one of the bolts and hand tighten on the bottom. And we're basically just going to repeat that 4 more times through each of these slots. Next, we're just going to go through and tighten each of these bolts. I'm going to start with this one first. Then we're going to move down here, and we're actually, before we tighten these top bolts, we're going to tighten the 2 bolts that are going between the frame. Now we're going to tighten these bottom bolts that are going through the frame. You're going to have to get a little ninja on this. It's a tight squeeze, but it can be done. Now we're going to tighten these 4 screws. You can use a 3/8 wrench. In this case, we're just going to use some needle nose pliers. Okay, we've got all 4 of these bolted. Check your box. It should be very nice and rigid. Okay, next we're going to install the rod dividers. These are designed to have a little bit of play in them so you can custom fit them to your specific rods. If you've got one big rod or a small rod, they got a little play in them. But basically we're going to get both these in here and then use this small 1/2-inch hardware to just bolt those down where we'd like them. In this case, I'm just going to space them all evenly and install them there. If we need to adjust them later, we can do that. Okay, actually after installing this, if you install these first, it's going to be easier. You can do it after, but after installing this, I'm realizing that putting these in first should not interfere, and it's actually going to be easier. So if you want to just set this on the floor, put your rods in there, space it out, and then tighten this down before you install the box, that actually might be a little better. Either way is very doable. Now you've got these dividers where you want them. We're just going to go ahead and tighten each one up. You also have this bungee ball. You can stretch it across your rods lift it up. It should keep your rods in there, which is nice. You can also just not use this, take it off if you want, personal preference. Okay, now we're moving on to the rod brackets. What you want to do is remove the last bolt of the oarsman seat. So right before this break, behind the oars seat, remove this bolt. This setting is going to give you 9-foot rods will fit. If you have 9.5s or 10, unfortunately this next hole is not going to get you to 9.5. You're going to have to drill another hole in here, and even more if you want to put 10 footers. We have not done that, but there should be no reason why you can't extend this out and accommodate longer rods. All right, we're going to take this larger bracket and we're going to slide each tube through the hole. Next, we're going to take this bracket piece, set it on here, and make sure that it's lining up perfectly with the rod tubes. It's real easy to get this piece wrong, start screwing things in, and have to redo it. But it's lining up perfectly. So we're going to start with one corner, stick one of these longer 3/4 inch bolts in, get that hand tight. Then we're going to move over to the opposite corner. Get one of those in. Now we're going to just proceed through here. This guy, you don't need to put one in there. We give you hardware for it if you want to, but this one is unneeded. But all these are on the top and 2 bottom corners. Okay, now we've got all these in here. We're gonna go around and tighten them just a little bit, and then move on to the next one. So we've got all these tightened nice and flush. Now we're gonna set this part aside and move on to the rear piece of the rear gear rack. Next, we're gonna take this bracket and we're gonna mount it underneath. You're gonna note that this cutout here is gonna line up with your cup holder. And we're going to drop a bolt in there. Loosely put a nut in. Then drop another one in this side. And nut the bottom, and then just go ahead and tighten these up. Next, we're going to take the rear gear rack and just set it back here. I recommend strapping the gear rack on at this point. We're not going to do that at this point. We're going to take this bracket, got an 1 3/4 bolt here, and we're going to try to slide these all through at the same time, like so. Then we're going to come over here and line this hole up and bolt this hole shut, closed I should say. Alright, we're going to go ahead and tighten this.